Brothers, many of you have seen the interview that Shannon Sharpe did last week on the Get Your Popcorn Ready podcast, where he talks about his life and his philosophy of relationships. For you brothers who haven't seen it, just go ahead and Google it here on YouTube and check out what he had to say. But brothers, Shannon Sharpe said a lot of things about being a single black man, a lot of things about his life and what he's involved in, his interests, his overall vision that is instructive for everything that we do here in this space, where we talk about black male independence and black male agency. And Shannon Sharpe is very, very important in light of recent conversations here in the digital world, across YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and other places, pertaining to what Mr. Kevin Samuels has promoted, the concept of the high-value man. So Shannon Sharpe, who is a successful broadcaster, working with Fox Sports. Now he has his own podcast, Club Shay Shay, which is growing in popularity, which is entertaining and interesting to watch. Shannon Sharpe is your proverbial high-value black man. And Shannon Sharpe said many things in this interview about relationships and about his status and his viewpoint on the women whom he brings into his personal life. And I want us, brothers, to consider these perspectives. That is that of Shannon Sharpe on the one hand and Kevin Samuels on the other. When you watch that interview carefully, it is clear that Shannon Sharpe is a man who's single, who is very, very content with his life. He's been in relationships. He's had a long-term relationship. But he's very, very sensitive to the kind of relationships that he's had in the past, which he does not want to replicate in the future. A kind where he has been treated as a utility, a success object, to use the language of Dr. T.S. Johnson. He is very aware and sensitive to the manner in which men like himself, who have achieved a lot, who have high status, are seen primarily as instruments for the selfishness of particular kinds of women. But then you have, on the other hand, you have someone like Kevin Samuels, who talks about the high-value man, and Kevin Samuels in this vision, this philosophy, he attaches high value masculinity with marriage and family and the like, and thinks that men who are high value, who make six figures or more, in order for them to continue to be valuable and successful, they need to get married, they need to have families, so on and so forth, that their lives are fundamentally benefited by the institution of marriage and everything that marriage entails. On the other hand, Shannon Sharpe is someone who expresses a worldview, a philosophy that is skeptical, that is critical of that model. And I want to say to you, brothers, that there are merits on both sides of these perspectives. Kevin Samuels is right in many of the things that he says about relationships. Kevin Samuels prides himself in bringing people together, men and women. Kevin Samuels has articulated this perspective where it is clear that men and women do better when they are together. And that human beings were not designed, we're not made for singleness. He's correct. We live in a society, a Western society, that has placed a high premium on singleness. And this focus on singleness is artificial. It is socially engineered. You can't go back 60 years, you can't go back 100 years, you can't go back 300, 500, you can't go back 1,000 years and find a society where you have deep polarization between men and women, where you have women who occupy one sphere independent of men, and you have men occupying another sphere separate from women. Not even in the Islamic world do you find that type of radical separation. That in history, and things have never been perfect, men and women have worked together. And only few people, only a minority within the population, the human population, has been able to sustain a type of solitary existence. But nevertheless, Kevin wants to bring people together. But Shannon Sharpe articulates a worldview that we cannot ignore. And that is that we live in a Western society where a gynocratic ideology and set of conditions exists, where men are seen primarily in terms of their utility, where there is a one-way relationship between men and women, where men are objectified. And Shannon Sharpe rejects that. And Shannon Sharpe has a perspective where it is important that the relationships that one has with women, particularly the intimate relationships, are reciprocal, that they are a two-way street. Even if the man in the relationship has more materially in terms of resources than the woman that he is involved with. And so you have two perspectives right here. And brothers, as we deal with the Great Reset, especially those of us who are single, those of us who have been married at one time, and those of us who have gone through serial relationships for whatever reason, that we are clear about where we are. We're clear about our philosophy with respect to relationships. In this interview, Shannon Sharpe said a lot about what he's involved in terms of his overall life vision. Shannon Sharpe works. Shannon Sharpe does his thing in the world of sports broadcasting. And it's clear that this is a part of his vision in life. He has other things that he's involved in, and these occupy a great deal of energy and time. He talked about having dogs, 3 dogs that he cares for. He talks about his hobbies. He likes to, he's a movie guy. In articulating the kind of life he lives, though he has lots of resources, it's a very simple, very minimalistic approach to life, one that has provided him with high levels of contentment. And to bring somebody into that at an intimate level means that whoever enters in the door has to be able to add. They have to be beneficial to his life. And in articulating this perspective, he is upholding BMI, black male independence, and he is also affirming BMA, black male agency, that these relationships must be mutually beneficial. And brothers, it's important that we are serious about where we stand in relationship to the larger gynocratic ideological machine that we deal with. Kevin Samuels and all the good that he is doing right now in terms of expanding black male perspectives into the larger world and talking about these very, very important matters. He's doing a good thing. However, it does not offset or it does not overcome the reality that we deal with in American society and across the West as black American men. That we have to be very particular and very specific about our personal lives and our intimacies. That we have to vet, that we have to be selective, that we have to maintain standards, that we have to maintain certain demands when it comes down to our personal lives and our intimate relationships. I want to be made perfectly clear that I am not anti-relationship, that I affirm black men wanting to have relationships. But I want brothers who are single, brothers who may enter into a long-term relationship that, might not lead to marriage, or brothers who might leave this world without entering into that kind of relationship that would lead to marriage, to be very, very clear about where they are in light of present arrangements that have not been adjusted, though COVID-19 is making us think twice about these arrangements, but they're still in place nonetheless. I affirm Shannon Sharpe in his articulation of his dating philosophy, and I'm glad that men like him and other men are now speaking in a very public, frank, a direct way about these matters, these intimate matters. And as we deal with the Great Reset, brothers, we need to join people like Shannon Sharpe in articulating our perspectives, perspectives that up to this point have been censored, perspectives that have been condemned, perspectives that have been seen as offensive to the other side. Brothers, today is a new day. Affirm your independence. Affirm your agency as black men.